What does it take to discover the greatest talents of a generation, build the modern British fashion industry from the ground up, and then be left to die by the very empires you created? Isabella Blow wasn't just a fashion editor. She was the beating heart of 1990s London fashion. She was the woman who found Alexander McQueen, bought his entire master's graduation collection, and essentially willed his success into existence. She was the woman who spotted Stella Tennant, Sophie Dahl, and Philip Treacy, plucking them from obscurity and turning them into global icons.
What does fashion mean to you?
My life.
She poured her own money, her own time, and her own soul into making other people famous. But in an industry that values profit over loyalty, being a visionary isn't enough. When the designers she nurtured signed multi-million-dollar contracts with luxury conglomerates, Isabella was left behind. She was dismissed as just a crazy, eccentric woman in a hat. And the isolation, the financial ruin, and the profound sense of betrayal would eventually cost her everything. On paper, Isabella Blow had everything. She was born into British aristocracy, heir to a sprawling Cheshire estate called Doddington Hall. But the reality behind those gates was far darker than the postcard suggested. The money was gone, the family was fracturing, and tragedy had already come calling before Isabella was old enough to understand it. When she was just 5 years old, her 2-year-old brother John drowned in the family swimming pool. That loss never left her. What followed only deepened the wound. In 1972, when Isabella was 14, her mother walked out, not with tears, not with a long goodbye, but with a formal handshake to each of her daughters. A handshake, as if they were business acquaintances she'd grown tired of. And later, when her father died, he made his feelings about Isabella perfectly clear. She received £5,000 from an estate worth millions. The message was unmistakable. She was on her own, so she got to work. Before Isabella Blow ever touched a fashion closet, she was scrubbing floors in London just to get by. In 1979, she packed up and moved to New York, studying ancient Chinese art at Columbia, before the fashion world pulled her in like a current she couldn't resist. By 1981, she'd talked her way into U.S. Vogue as an assistant to Anna Wintour, and soon found herself working alongside the legendary André Léon Talley. She watched Wintour up close. The ruthless efficiency, the institutional power, the ice-cold strategy. And she absorbed every lesson. But then she rejected the method entirely. When she returned to London in 1986 to join Tatler as a style editor, Isabella wasn't interested in working within fashion's existing structures. She wanted to tear them down and rebuild them in her own image. In the early 1990s, London fashion was gritty, rebellious, and desperate for a champion. Isabella became that champion. She didn't just style shoots, she engineered careers. When she saw Alexander McQueen's master's graduation collection at Central St. Martin's in 1992, she didn't just write a review. She tracked him down and bought every single piece. The exact price has been debated for decades. The famous £5,000 figure has been disputed by multiple journalists who've dug into the story. And even McQueen and Blow themselves couldn't agree on the number when asked. But that's almost beside the point. Whatever she paid it when nobody else would, and that's what mattered. When her own Belgravia home was under renovation, McQueen even lived and worked in her cellar before relocating to Hoxton Square in 1993. She introduced him to the right people, wore his clothes to every major event, and acted as his unpaid PR agent, manager, and muse. She did the same for Philip Treacy, the Irish milliner whose extraordinary sculptural hats became her visual signature. The towering lobsters, the galleons, the antlers that made her unmistakable on any street or front row. Treacy later said that without Isabella, he would never have had a career. She wore his most outrageous creations to the most conservative events, turning herself into a walking advertisement for his genius. She also discovered models Stella Tennant and Sophie Dahl, recognizing a unique, unconventional beauty that the rest of the industry hadn't caught on to yet. She didn't just find talent, she staked her entire reputation on it again and again. For a few glorious years, Isabella Blow was the center of the fashion universe. If she wore your clothes, you mattered. If she championed your work, you were destined for greatness. She operated under the illusion that this influence was a form of power. But in fashion, influence is only valuable until the corporations step in. The turning point came when the raw talent Isabella had nurtured became highly profitable commodities. In 1989, Isabella had married Detmar Blow, an art dealer with his own estate, Hillis House in Gloucestershire, but their life together was fraught with financial struggles. Isabella was famously incompetent with money, spending compulsively on clothes while struggling to maintain the aristocratic lifestyle expected of her. She earned income from consulting work with brands like DuPont Lycra, Lacoste, and Swarovski, and she held prestigious titles, eventually becoming fashion director at Tatler and working at the Sunday Times Style magazine. But she had no equity in the massive brands she was helping to build. She had influence, but no ownership. She had access, but no contract. The ultimate irony and the most devastating betrayal came at the turn of the millennium. In 1997, Isabella was having lunch with Tom Ford, then Gucci's creative director. According to Blow herself, she was the one who first suggested the acquisition to Ford. She later recalled telling him directly to buy McQueen's label, insisting the idea was entirely hers. She wasn't thinking about what she'd get in return. She just believed in him, the way she always had. The woman who discovered McQueen, housed him, dressed him, and built his entire platform, handed him to the corporate machine herself. By 2001, Gucci Group had acquired a 51% stake in McQueen's label. It was a massive multi-million-dollar deal. The designer Isabella had discovered was now a wealthy, powerful figure in the global luxury market. But Isabella? She got nothing financially from the deal she had engineered. There was no official role for her. There was no consulting contract. She had given McQueen the platform, the connections, and the early financial support he needed to survive, but she had never asked for a contract. She operated on loyalty, friendship, and passion. The conglomerates operated on margins. And once the corporate infrastructure was in place, the PR teams, the marketing departments, the global distribution networks, there was simply no room for an eccentric woman in a hat who operated on instinct rather than spreadsheets. Fashion is a vampiric thing. It's the Hoover on your brain. That's why I wear the hats, to keep everyone away from me. She watched from the sidelines as the people she had built became millionaires, while she and Detmar drowned in debt. She was still invited to the shows, still photographed in the front row, but she was no longer an insider. She was a mascot, a living reminder of a more romantic era that the industry had already moved past. This is where the contrast with her former boss, Anna Wintour, becomes so instructive. Both women started in the same world at the same time. Both had an extraordinary eye for talent. But Wintour understood something Isabella never did, that in fashion, power comes from institutional control, from titles, from corporate backing. Wintour built an impenetrable fortress at Condé Nast for nearly 4 decades, becoming not just an editor, but a gatekeeper with a permanent seat at the corporate table. Her power was structural and self-sustaining. It didn't depend on the gratitude of any single designer. Blow's power, by contrast, was entirely personal. She gave it away to individuals. It was a trust that would cost her everything. The moment those individuals were absorbed into corporate structures, Blow's personal influence became irrelevant. The realization that she had been financially and emotionally stripped bare broke her. Isabella had always struggled with depression, but the professional exclusion accelerated her decline dramatically. Her personal life was also collapsing. She and Detmar separated in 2004 after his affair with a society editor. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and underwent electroconvulsive therapy. To compound the tragedy, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and her long-standing struggles with infertility remained a profound source of pain. Every pillar of her life, her career, her marriage, her health, her finances, was crumbling simultaneously.
I've been ill myself, and the thing is, when you're ill, you don't know, you're very alone, and these things happen.
She had given everything to fashion, but fashion had given her nothing in return but a front-row seat to other people's success. The woman who had once been the most connected person in London fashion was now profoundly alone. The isolation was devastating. The designers who once relied on her for their next meal were now surrounded by PR teams, executives, and sycophants. They were insulated by wealth and corporate power. Isabella was left alone with her debts, her failing marriage, her cancer diagnosis, and her deteriorating mental health. The hats she wore, once symbols of her creative power, became shields against a world that no longer wanted her. In the 14 months before her death, she made at least 7 documented attempts to end her life, taking overdoses of medication and deliberately driving her car to self-destruction. Each attempt was a cry from a woman who had run out of reasons to stay. On May 5th, 2007, during a weekend house party at Hilla's, where guests included Philip Treacy, Isabella announced she was going shopping. Instead, she was found collapsed on the bathroom floor, having ingested poison. She was taken to hospital, but there was nothing that could be done. She passed away the following day, May 7th, 2007, at the age of only 48. If Isabella's life was a testament to the cruelty of the fashion industry, her funeral was a masterclass in its hypocrisy. The service at Gloucester Cathedral on May 15th, 2007, drew the elite of the industry. The executives, editors, and designers turned out in full force. They wore bespoke black outfits. They wore magnificent Philip Treacy hats, the very hats Isabella had championed into existence. They gave glowing quotes to the press about her unparalleled genius. The same people who had denied her a title, a contract, or a seat at the table now competed to deliver the most eloquent eulogy.
She was just one of those people who kind of makes the fashion industry the kind of curious, creative energy that it is.
But to be fair, the affection from her protégé was often genuine. McQueen spoke of her with real warmth and credited her publicly as the person who launched his career. Philip Treacy, who remained fiercely loyal to her throughout her life, later called out the industry's two-faced mourning in a 2013 interview with The Telegraph. She thought she no longer mattered, he said. For all her flamboyance and humor and warmth, Isabella actually suffered from low self-esteem. She was never feted while she was alive. She gave so much and worked so hard. She supported the careers of many young people who didn't stand a chance without her, yet she never won a single award. That interview was tied to the 2013 retrospective at Somerset House in London, titled Fashion Galore. It featured over 100 pieces from her wardrobe, including more than 60 Philip Treacy hats. The fashion world finally gave Isabella Blow her due, 6 years after her death. But even this recognition felt hollow. It was a celebration of the clothes she bought, organized by the very industry that refused to pay her while she was alive. The retrospective proved what everyone already knew. Isabella Blow had impeccable taste. What it couldn't fix was the fact that impeccable taste without corporate protection means nothing in the modern fashion economy. Isabella Blow wasn't just a victim of her own mental health or a tragic cancer diagnosis. She was a victim of a corporate machine that consumes raw passion and spits out profit. She built the empires that define luxury today, only to learn that in the business of beauty, the people who create the magic are always the first to be discarded when the show is over. And the tragedy didn't end with her. Just 3 years after Isabella's death, on February 11th, 2010, Alexander McQueen, the raw talent she had nurtured into a global icon, was found dead at his Mayfair home. He was 40 years old, his mother had died the week before, and the pressures of running a global luxury brand had consumed him entirely. The machine that had consumed Isabella eventually consumed him, too. They both paid the ultimate price for believing that fashion was about art, loyalty, and beauty, rather than profit, power, and exploitation. The industry mourned them both with lavish tributes. And then it moved on to the next collection. Isabella Blow gave everything she had to an industry that never once asked what it was costing her. If her story stays with you, and we think it will, drop a comment below and tell us, do you think the fashion world has changed? Or are we still watching the same machine run on different names? Thank you for watching. And as always, see you in the next one.